So, do you ever have one of those things happen that just felt like, wait a second, how did she know? One of those car things where you're about to sell it and it blows your transfer case. You're about to get it painted and you get in an accident. Okay, paint job's paid for. You eat a bearing in the front of the case there between the gear case and the body with the rotors. 2 days after you pay and see a shipping confirmation for an entire Supercharger kit with a new head unit to replace the one that you put on originally that had been a good deal but completely worn out, like last legs. And I got my last legs out of her. I was taking the video on driving the car. Thing runs great. God, it runs like a champ. But I knew, I said, okay, something's going to go wrong. I'm not going to finish these videos. And then driving down Highway 89 towards Emerald Bay, starts squealing like a pig. She ate a bearing. Okay, cool. It could just be a dry bearing. It's more likely that it's worse for reasons. But anyway, she knew, and she was getting some new equipment. She said, just lay me up for a few days. So today we're going to do the high-speed video, the sped up Benny Hill video of doing the swap on this, because it's all the same stuff. It's just the newer Y-end blower to replace the old B&M, and the Y-end is, it's beautiful, it's rigid, the rotors are perfect. Now it's a 142, no Teflon rotors. The Teflon rotors on this are worn out, the case is worn out, there's a little contact at the back of the case, whatever. It was great as a start, and I got a good deal on it. I'll have it rebuilt, or I'll rebuild it myself, maybe have it refinished, new Teflons and whatnot, down the road. But for now, we're just going to swap the new one on, and then we're going to do something about this beast here. Because we have snow now, and having this stabbing up through the hood is great, except when you've got a foot of cake snow around it, and you're trying to get it out, and then it starts melting, and it's sizzling off your headers, and it's a bugger. So, today's video, I'm in 2 minutes, I haven't done a thing. Let me stop talking. Let me just get at it after I have a little bit more black coffee. God, there's nothing better. All right, see you on the other side. Real simple here. Just took off the scoop, took off the air cleaner and the carb, set it aside, took off the head unit, swapped the input shaft onto the new head unit. That's all. Okay, so now we're going to pause because we have a small issue. All right? We've had this 1-inch carb spacer plate running successfully, no problems. Well, the shape of the manifold mate at the bottom of this, well, at the top front end, the carburetor base here, it's shallower on the ridge there than it is on the last blower. The problem is, this is why I use tacky gaskets. They seal great, and sometimes you find the worst vacuum leak you would have ever encountered. Atrocious, like it would have been a catastrophic failure type situation. She would have run so lean, couldn't get a good tune, you'd have to try and rich it out, and based on engine load, it would have been a vacuum issue / it's just a mess. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this out of the equation. We're not going to run the carb heater plate. Since this manifold is a lot closer to the head, it actually does warm everything up, and that's one of the reasons I use black, quick gasket, fuel-safe gasket, instead of paper gaskets, is to get more heat from the intake manifold up into the supercharger body and then up into the carburetor. It only needs to be barely hot to the touch to get a carb fuel atomizing better, or well enough. But as it is, this will not work, so we got to take this out of the equation. So that's going to be another tedious little thing. I'm going to go back to the time-lapse video here because most of you guys aren't going to be running a heater plate, so we'll focus on just getting, and yes, I know the carb is dripping a little bit of gas. That's fine. That'll help me clean the valve cover when I'm done. But yeah, well, let's take this heater plate out of the equation. It's give us a little more hood clearance, because when this is done, she's not getting a scoop. We're putting a hood blister on, and that's going to be awesome. So, stick with me. We'll get at it. Guys, always keep a catch can when you're doing hose stuff, and paper towels. Trust me. Okay, and we are back. Here are a couple little updates. So, this is the new Y-end
blower. Carb is mated right to it with a little bit of black gasket maker. I like that setup because, again, it transfers the most amount of heat up through the intake manifold, and that'll be critical because we are in snow country. Because it's a new blower, it shouldn't be getting a lot of pressure past the seals and causing any spill past the bearing and seal in the front. We'll see. In fact, right now I see that I actually need to loosen this and realign this for the belt. It's just a little bit off, and you couldn't tell before, but I can tell under tension, so that's minor. But I went and got a coupler for the heater hose so I can use the section I had before, a small portion of it, and run the heater hoses back to the firewall right through the heater without that plate that was here before. I plugged, there was a vacuum port on the side of the blower here. I plugged that because I have my ported vacuum for the PCV on the carb, and then I have non-ported vacuum on the carb that's going to the distributor advance, and then I've got vacuum tee off at the manifold for the blower boost pressure gauge and the MSD 6 BTM. So, and that's basically, those just give a shit about pressure, not vacuum. So the vacuum gauge is relatively accurate coming off the manifold, but that's not my main concern. I just want boost gauge accuracy. So that's, we're getting her back together. I think once I get that hose back on and let those gaskets really set, we're going to see about doing the new air cleaner assembly, which I have the offset plate. It's pretty cool. I'm just going to finish putting this back together, but I might as well do the, do the Benny Hill. And you guys can keep up with me without dragging through 40 minutes of me wrenching and cursing.
Okay, so 12 seconds of video. Can I just say, look at how shiny that thing is. They even have that boss on the side with their logo. The B&M was cool, but man, this thing is nice.
This is the Aussie Speed input housing, all right? I used the shorter screws because they had great thread. The front case here on the Y-end is just, it's beautiful. It's bigger. There's more of an oil sump. There's a sight glass down here in front, so I know where my lubricant level is. That's fantastic. I've got this new little bracket here for the springs, and it's got great tension. It's a lot better than what was there before. The new air cleaner does not fit. So this is the old air cleaner, and we're going to have to do another setup for that. But I may still start doing the hood blister today. So as she sits, ignition is on. Let's fire it up, and you guys can be here with me if she blows. All right, here we go. Wow, that is quiet. I hear the slightest bit of squeak. It's probably from my belts. It may be coming from the blower, but these all make a little bit of noise. I mean, Y-end will tell you that. The big thing is all that death rattle from the other blower from the last video. Look at my shorts. Big difference. So the steam blowing off, that's where coolant spilled on the headers when I was redoing those radiator hoses, the stainless ones. So I'm going to take this camera around and I'll show you what else we did. All right, and I can tell you this is some very sickly sweet steam. That's all coolant burning off the exhaust pipes. We took out the heat riser. These coupled to the back and the front of the heat riser, well, now they're just mated together. That's a 5/8 barb coupler from the hardware store. It's brass. Never use plastic. That's garbage. You can see this is kind of a special effect. All the steam, but you can hear it's quiet. This thing is idling real smooth. So I'm very pleased with that. I have to figure out a little better routing here. I think I'll get some more stainless zips and route these hoses with a little bit more style and grace. And this vacuum hose, I think I'll get a stainless braided just because it's pretty.
Okay, so now that we have everything back together, I have an air cleaner for it, but it doesn't clear the hole in my hood. So we're gonna cut that really quick. And then in this box, which is very tall, I have a scoop. So let's cover everything. I'm gonna put this little grinder to use real quick. Just zip, zip, open this hole up just a little more on one edge. Moron. And then we're gonna get it down so the air cleaner will clear, get the hood scoop on, and all kinds of fun stuff. Okay guys, wear eye protection, cover your skin, try not to die doing all this stuff. I clearanced to the inside of that air cleaner lid there, the ribs for the choke tower on the carburetor, because there's little clearance due to the drop base air cleaner base that I got from Summit. And then we'll run it with a 2-inch air filter, although I'll try and get up to a 3-inch if I can fit it under that scoop. And then we just started modifying the scoop to fit the hood profile up front. Pretty fun stuff.
Okay, here's a status update. Since you've been watching the little sped up Benny Hill version, I now have a hood scoop. We're doing stainless fasteners. You know, just standard Allen key stainless fasteners. We'll be putting, you know, thread lock once those things are all set down. But in between the body and the scoop, since it's going to be bolted down and not permanent, I'm going to use door edge guard around the bottom, kind of like fender welt, but it's a C shape, so it goes on the fiberglass all the way around the edge, and that'll keep it sealed really well. I'm over talking it. Let me show you something cool. Put my glove on because this thing is just a dusty mess, and honestly, you know, I'm just trying to stay as clean as I can. It's a good habit. It's not one I usually practice, but it's a good habit. So these are still these are fastened here. You can see that. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. This is what we were working on. Hood clearanced. Cut. All right. Ta-da. I don't know what else to say. I'm just kind of blown away. I need to do a little organization of the snakes here. And at some point I'll get a replacement hose for this one to run a one-piece. But right here, just a brass coupling, you know, flared coupling is fine. So this will get enough airflow. I may be able to fit a 3-inch element and go a little higher with it. It may rub on that side. I got to test it. But as it is, everything went back together. We're going to do run drive videos soon. I just got to finish putting the hood scoop on because, again, we're in snow country. I've got weather, and I just want to keep this thing a little nicer. I plan on pulling everything off the firewall and pulling up the wires and sanding down and redoing the paint in this engine bay at some point. Not today. But pretty cool stuff. You can see I notched it over here to clear the cowl because it sits just a little higher, but it may not always. It needs some panel realignment when I do the body work, but for now, that'll keep it from fudging up. And honestly, it looks kind of good. I'll give you a little close-up here. See that? Just a wee notch. Yeah. And yeah, so that's what we're working with. All that stuff on the back shelf, that's part of my other business. It's, you know, replica movie props. I literally, if I didn't have projects to do stuff with my hands, I don't know what I would do with myself. I really don't. Anyway, I'm going to go back and 1/4 inch through the fiberglass, drop an 1/8 inch down and mark where you're going through, and then I'm doing a 5/16 into the hood. We're doing rivet nuts, so you have reliable fastening all the way around, and these are zinced, and then we'll seal them from the bottom to make sure that when they crimp, if the zinc coating flaked off, they're never going to rust. Between that and the thread sealant, little glop, before you run all of these down into it, it'll be perfectly sealed, and then I can take it up, before I do the thread sealant, I can take it up and do the edge rubber, because you're going to need to do that. One thing I had to do is, I had to custom grind, and you see in the video, along here for this contour of the hood, into this corner, and then from here up and over, and I got this sculpted to the point where it's down to like a 1/16 of an inch. It's almost flush. so I won't have to worry about any lift or anything like that on the freeway. And then once I get the rubber gaskets in, that'll help batten everything down and seal up the edges and prevent any weather issues, because this is a driver. This is a daily driver. You know, that's why we're doing this, because something sticking out of the hood is not sensible when I'm leaving it outside when there's 2 feet of snow on the ground. The reason I'm leaving it outside is for another video entirely. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that because, I mean, I just got to do some screws and rivet nuts, and then we're going to get to the drive. I've been talking too much. All right, she's running. Let's change our gauge color here. Something I can see a little better in the daylight. Took this panel out. I'm rebuilding the heater box. That's another video. Doing some custom control cables because you can't buy those anymore. When you drop the hammer, you can hear that thing wind up, right? All right, we're good. Give her a little goose here. Because it's cold as hell out there, right?